Hi, my name is Amanda McCordick, and today I'm going to show you how to make Rick Simpson Oil Suppositories. I'm going to start with showing you what you kind of need just to collect to make them. So first you're going to start with like a mid-sized to large Pyrex dish, something that can take the heat well. And then you're going to have a smaller glass Pyrex dish that you're actually going to use to mix a concoction in. I also like to have a spatula and a chopstick, a teaspoon and a half a teaspoon, and a knife. So there's lots of different options as far as what you can use for a mold. Ideally, if you can get your hands on them, something like this is perfect. These are empty plastic one-time use molds. I get them online, and they come in two different sizes, 2.3 milliliters and then 1.3 milliliters. When I was kind of initially really involved with pushing back the cancer last April, I was doing probably 4 or 5 of the smaller ones a day, just more concentrated. But now I'm back to work, and I'm still doing a full course of Rick Simpson treatment. I'm still maintaining that, but I'm doing 3 suppositories a day, 1 in the morning, 1 after work, and 1 in the evening. And I'm using the larger one of those, just again, because I'm only doing 3 a day. So these are ideal if you can get them. But sometimes you can't. They're frequently sold out, and I haven't been able to find them anywhere kind of in person or really on any other sites. So we do have backup options. The first and best, I think, is just empty pill poppers. And if you've got cancer or terminal cancer, like I was diagnosed with, you got lots of pills around. And these really worked really quite well. And so what I like to do is, first of all, I save all of them. Drives my husband crazy. Because I always think, like, I don't know, you never know. You don't know when you're not going to be able to get the suppository molds, and I just never want to be without them. So I save them all. This is from Claston. It's a calcium drug that I take in the morning. And so I take 4 of those a day, so I always get lots of poppers around. So I just clean all of the tin foil off just to make it easier to work with. I gotta flick it sometimes, a little bit of flicking. And I just don't want anybody holding off making their Rick Simpson because they can't find suppositories because they can't find the molds. There really is options. In fact, when my first round, I was so desperate to get it into me that, and there was just no good options for molds. And I hadn't thought of this, or this hadn't been recommended to me yet. I used the fingers of latex gloves, and it was messy. It was hard to use, but I was just so desperate to get them into me that was the only thing I could think of, and that's what I used for the first couple of weeks until stumbled on other options. So I like to get it all clean like that, and then I take the bigger end of the chopstick and just push it in all, just so it makes like a nice, so that it's got the nice round pill shape again. If you're using these, you probably don't want to make them as as diluted as what in the bigger ones, because obviously these are quite small. But you can also do 2 at a time because they're not very big. So that's one option. The other option that I tried for a bit, and it works, comfort-wise, it wasn't my favorite. These are just empty gelatin capsules. You can get them at, health food stores or most pharmacies. And so basically you just use those, and you'll scoop it in, put the cover on, put it in the freezer and freeze it, and then when it's time to insert, you just put a little bit of Vaseline on it or Rick Simpson oil cream, and then slide it in. So those are kind of the options. If you can't find these, this is my favorite, but these work too. And who knows what else is out there, I guess I should say too. I am an amateur at all of this. This is not in my regular skill set. I'm not a cook. I had no understanding how any of this works. And there wasn't a lot of information out there when I was looking on the line. And so I really stumbled through it, trial and error. And so this is what works for me. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it. I'm not even saying it's the best way to do it. I just know that for me, this worked. And I think if I can make it easier for others trying to figure this out, I'm happy to do that. Okay, so what I use so that's what we put in, but as far as what goes in the actual suppositories, I use organic virgin coconut oil. I get it from Costco. You can get it at Walmart and other places like that, but as far as the big jars, Costco's the only place I've ever seen it. Quality's really good. I've never had any issues with it. You can also add in raw shea butter. It's more expensive. It's a little bit more firm. So sometimes I add it in. I like to mix things up. So some batches I do, for every gram of Rick Simpson oil, I do 4 grams of coconut oil. So a 4-to-1 ratio. Sometimes though, I will do a 3-to-1 ratio and then add in the 4th ratio of this. So 3 grams of coconut oil per every gram of Rick Simpson oil, and then add in 1 gram of this for every gram. So those are your kind of 2 options for a base. I also add in, and I can never pronounce these words right, but I'm not going to let that limit me. Turmeric. I never say it right. I get this at Costco too. So I do for every, so if I have 10 grams of Rick Simpson oil, I would use 4 of these. So I guess the easier way to say it would be 1 pill of these. So there's 500 milligrams in each capsule. So I would do for every 4 grams of Rick Simpson oil, or sorry, of coconut oil, I would use 1 of these. And that's only really very, very recently. Only the most recent batches have I added that in. Before that, I was really just using the Rick Simpson oil, the coconut oil, and then lecithin. And so the reason I started adding those in was because there's research out there that shows that they kill cancer stem cells, which is where my focus is now. But if you don't have that, don't let that stop you. Lecithin is also added in, and that, my understanding, is to help with the uptake. It's got other kind of benefits as well, but that's the primary purpose as far as my understanding is. Again, this can be a little bit difficult to find. If you can find it, great, throw it in. If you can't, don't let that stop you. And then, of course, we have to add in our Rick Simpson oil. I am fortunate enough to be able to make my own Rick Simpson oil. Good group of friends that have kind of helped me get what I need. So I make mine myself. I realize not everyone can. And we keep ours in syringes of 10 grams of Rick Simpson oil. Usually I would do a batch of kind of probably 20 or 30 grams. But just so it doesn't take long today, I'm just going to do 10, and that's easier math. So I've got my teapot boiling here. And so we're just going to use this as a hot water bath. So we're going to put the water in. And then we're just going to set a little bowl inside. And what I do, just to get the Rick Simpson oil a little more workable, is I place it in the water as well, just to let it heat up, just while I'm measuring out the coconut oil. And so this is 10, so we need 40 grams of this, or 40 milliliters. So that's 1. So I'm going to need 8 of these. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's already starting to melt. And 8. Now you'll see that I am not a precision expert, precision measurer of anything. This is more like how your grandmother used to cook, where she kind of just threw a bunch of stuff in. There are people out here who I'm sure would be perfect with dosage. That's, again, not me. And I don't want, if that's not you, I don't want you to feel like you can't do it because you can't do it perfect. So we put our stuff in there and it immediately starts melting. I'm gonna put the Rick Simpson oil in now, so it's had a second to warm up. And so it should push out better. Oh yeah, look how nice that's coming out. It is really sticky and really tarry. That's, so it can be difficult to work with, but it's coming out nice there now that it's warmed up. I'm just gonna pick the camera up here just so we can see what it looks like. So you'll see it's pretty goopy looking. And that's exactly how it's supposed to look right now. Okay, so from that, we're gonna add in a little lecithin. So I ballpark this. I would put 4 in for 10, right around there. Now these, again, I think I said this already, if you see them somewhere, get them, because they're sometimes hard to find. I have looked for just a bottle of it, like an essential oil bottle, so that I could just use a dropper. Never found it. I dream of the day. So we have to work. I have to work with the capsules right now. But again, so much of this is working with what you can get your hands on, right? And not delaying until it's perfect. Working with what you got. So that's what I've been using. I just cut them. They're easier. There's a line on them from when they were manufactured. It's easiest if you cut on that line. And I should say, I am terrible at using a knife. As anyone who knows how to use a knife can tell. So, you know, I always worry about cutting myself, but I was gonna say it haven't happened yet, but it absolutely has happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen today. I only got one left. Okay, pretty goopy doing this part. Okay, so that's all in there now. So you don't have to add in this if you don't have it or if you're not comfortable with it. It's definitely something that I've just started doing. And you know, it's so unfortunate that the science is really, or the good research or mainstream medical is really kind of lagged in this area. I would love to be able to just go out and buy a suppository that had everything I needed in it and the different strains and stuff. And you know, hopefully someday it's like that, but it's not yet. And so, you know, with a terminal diagnosis, you can't wait. You can't wait for that. You can't wait the 10 years or the 15 years for all the peer review articles that you'd like to see. Okay, so now I'm trying to get these open, and you can tell I'm struggling. My hands are all greased up from from the oil. Try again. I should warn you with this stuff. It makes everything, and I mean everything, really orange. Oh, there we go. So we got it open now. So yeah, it makes everything really quite orange. So wear black underwear if you're gonna put this in, because everything is orange, including your fingers. My fingers will be dyed for weeks. It's just a permanent. I just have orange fingers now. You can wear gloves if it really bothered you. I'm not so concerned by it. So yeah, as I was saying, I just to kind of tell you a little bit about my story while we do this, while we mix all this in. In December of 2019, I found a lump on the kind of outside of my left breast. Luckily, one of my close friends is a doctor, so I reached out to her right away, and she was able to get things kind of going pretty fast for me. And so initially they had kind of said like it was grade 2, and you know, it was certainly wasn't anything that couldn't be fixed. That's what they kept saying. It's nothing that couldn't be fixed. I'm just gonna take a second here, and my skills are a little bit lacking. So you can see like what it looks like, and I just gently kind of keep agitating and stirring it all in. The Rick Simpson oil will go to the bottom, so you really kind of got to watch that, just so that it, you know, has a nice mixture on it. And this is just a hot water bath is all this is. You just keep stirring. That's kind of what it. If I hadn't put in the turmeric, whatever the hell you say that. If you hadn't put that in, it would have been like an olive green is usually what it looks like. And so you just kind of let the hot water do its thing and melt everything, and it just all kind of binds together so that you can't see the different ingredients. They all are now just one. So back to my story. So where were we? So in January of 2020, I had a biopsy, MRI and all of that. They said it was a grade 2, so it was aggressive, but not the most aggressive. In February, I had a mastectomy. And after that, in late March, I had scans, a CT scan and a bone scan. And after the mastectomy, I had done really well, and the surgeon had actually kind of said, like, they did discover upon doing the mastectomy that, in fact, it was more aggressive than they had thought. It was a grade 3, which is the most, in the grading of cancers, that's the most aggressive kind. So they told me that it was, they kind of said, like, well, we got pretty good margins. It's more aggressive than we thought, but we should be fine. You know, we should be fine. And so I really kind of didn't worry about it. I had follow-up CT scans and bone scans in March, and then on April 2nd I met with the oncologist to go over those, and that's when I learned that it had spread into 3 areas, so into my bones. So I have it in my tailbone and 2 ribs. And so when breast cancer has spread into your bones, that's considered stage 4, and it's considered terminal. And so my oncologist sat me down, and with a lot of kindness did tell me that it was terminal and that I was going to die. They told me initially it'd be 3 to 5 years was kind of the average. But then she said, I remember her saying, but you know, some people go much, much faster. And I didn't realize at the time is that when she said some people go much, much faster, she was thinking of me. I learned later that they thought that I would only live a couple of months because it was just so aggressive and was spreading so fast. So, you know, that was a lot to take in. I was only 37. I had a beautiful family, a really interesting career, a thriving business. You know, I really had felt like my life, you know, was just really beginning, and the thoughts of it being over was just kind of really shocking for me. And for my family. It was actually much, much, much harder on my family. I'm just going to pause to say, when you look at this, you want to make sure, like this stuff here, I can see that it's all stuck on the bottom, and that's not what we want. And you know, I may have to get some more hot water just to, sometimes the water, oh, that stuff was pretty hot. Sometimes the water doesn't get hot enough. I've seen people do this on a pot too, where they do it right, you know, on the stove in a pot. That's not really how I've done it, but maybe that's a good idea. I just kind of turn it and just kind of keep mixing it. And, you know, it is quite thick with the addition of the turmeric. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, so in April, you know, they're telling me I'm going to die. I'm a classic type A personality, and so I really, really couldn't accept that. Well, and at first I just thought if I could give myself 10 years, you know, my youngest child was 9, and I thought, you know, if I could just raise her, right? Like I just, you know, I thought I could die in peace if I could just raise her. And so I talked to my doctors about 10 years. I said, you know, what about 10 years? And they were pretty skeptical. Pretty skeptical, pretty pessimistic. So my rat oncologist did say, you know, after some probing, that it was highly improbable, but maybe possible. And so I kind of grabbed onto that and said, okay, I just need like faint hope. And so that's where I started. 10 years was my goal. That would bring my daughter to 19, and she'd be ready to go out in the world. And in 10 years, seems much more doable than 3. So I started looking to see what I could do to give my body the best chance to live as many good years as I could. And the Rick Simpson oil, you know, luckily I had a friend who had been diagnosed with terminal cancer many years before, and had healed himself in part with the Rick Simpson oil. So he was really great in kind of reaching out and giving me hope and giving me instruction. And my husband, who is so much better at all these things than I am, he's the cook in the house, he figured out how to make the Rick Simpson oil for me, and you know, and I think that was a big part of saving my life. But the oral dose is really high. THC, and you get really high, and I had never been one to partake. Knew lots of people that did and have no issue with it, but it just wasn't for me. I'm not someone who likes to be high. And so I did the starter dose, which was a half of grain of rice, and it made me so high. It was about 8 hours. I sat in the chair and couldn't talk, and I remember my daughter asked if she could go play outside, and I know it was like 3 minutes of awkward silence before I mustered a yes. Like, and I just thought, like, I can't live like this. And I didn't know how long I had. Like, I had the sense that they were really concerned that I was going to go downhill fast, because they had told me, like, go close your business, make your will. You know, they had given me that pep talk. So I didn't know how much time I had, and I thought, I can't, if I've only got, you know, 6 months, I can't risk being high for a month of it. Like, that's not how I'm spending my time. Spending a lot of time reading then, and I came across some mention of it being done through suppository, and then another cancer survivor who I was working with had mentioned that he had made some suppositories for pain management for his mom. And so that kind of took off in my brain. I thought, okay, well, maybe maybe I can do it that way, because I had read that the THC, when you take it orally, it goes through, gets processed through your stomach, goes through your liver, and your liver breaks down the THC, and that's what sends a signal to your brain that lets you know you're high. So when you do it through suppository, it goes into your bowel, and the heat from your body melts it all, and it melts in and goes directly into your bloodstream, bypassing your stomach and your liver. And so the THC doesn't get broken down the same way, and so you don't experience any high. Other people have told me that, or not other people told me, I have seen other mentions of people getting high that way. I've never experienced it, so I don't know. But certainly for me, I went and do a full, about 1.5 grams a day dose through suppositories, and have never experienced any high. Okay, so I'm yabbing on here. Yep, this is looking good. We just want to lift it up and make sure that it's not it's not separated. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is kind of spread these out. If you can find, not all syringes are created equal. So if you can find a good one or a good brand, keep buying them. The other ones break a lot. I have ordered some glass ones. They're not in yet, but I'm kind of looking forward to that. So what I do is I go down right on the level so that I can see, this stuff is expensive and I don't want to waste any of it. And so I just fill them right up. There's a line you'll see. You fill them to that line, and then you just move to the next one. And that's really just what we do. So going back to my story while I do this, where were we? So it's April, they told me I'm gonna die. I have a follow-up in May. They're still pretty insistent that I'm gonna die. But it was funny, she, my oncologist, who's a lovely person, she's pretty pessimistic, but she's a lovely person. In May, when I had met with her, I had asked if they knew if it was in my brain, because no one had scanned my brain, and she said no. And I said, can we get that done? And she said, oh, why would you want to know? And I thought, well, why wouldn't I want to know? Anyway, but she agreed and gave me the brain scan and got it arranged quite quickly, and thankfully it wasn't in my brain. But they had kind of warned me that it was, they could see the spots in my bones, but that cancer, when it spreads, is kind of like sand. It just kind of gets it everywhere, and it can be a while before you see where it is. So they had told me that it wouldn't be my bones that killed me. It would be that it would explode through me, kind of my lungs and my brain, my other organs. And so I was very aware that it wasn't just my bone mets that I needed to treat, but that I had to kind of condition my whole body so that wherever they may be, that it wouldn't take root. So I started about 1.5 weeks it took me to get everything I needed to make my first doses. And so that was the middle of April, and I've really been on it continuously since then. And it's done a lot for me besides just, in the beginning it was kind of, a lot of it was pain management. I was starting, by the time I was diagnosed terminal, I was already having a lot of pain in my bones. I thought it was just because I was, getting older and overweight, but it was the cancer mets. And so I started using it in part for that, because I figured if nothing else is going to help that. And I did that both through the suppositories and a topical cream. But by the end of May, I had no pain. And when I followed up my doctor, she said, you must be sleeping a lot now. And I said, well, no, I sleep well at night. And she goes, no, you must be napping. And I said, no, and I was still working full time, and she was kind of surprised by that. And I was hiking a lot. She was surprised by that. So I really had the sense that it was working, because I knew I was supposed to go downhill fast, and I wasn't going downhill. I was actually, I was getting stronger, and I was getting healthier, and I was hiking more. And I knew I'd never had cancer before, so I didn't know what that was like, but I knew what feeling good felt like, and I was feeling better than I had felt in years. So I continued on with this, and I added in, I don't want to say it was just the Rick Simpson oil that kind of cured me, but it was certainly an important part. I started being very mindful of how I spoke to myself. I started loving myself. I started doing Reiki, a lot of Reiki. I did intermittent fasting, I always say it wrong. So I did fasting, and then I also did keto for the first 3 months. And I also do mainstream. So I do all the mainstream stuff too. I think that's for each individual to choose what's right for them. And for me, so far, the mainstream hasn't had a lot of side effects. So why wouldn't I continue doing it? So yeah, life continued, and we kind of just got used to it and got into it. And again, this is so outside my wheelhouse. I'm not someone who tinkers. I'm not really. And the great thing about that though is, and I kind of thought about it when doing these videos. This is not, I know that this is not, it's not slick, it's not well produced. I'm an average normal person, and I think it's good. I think the nice thing about this video and how amateurish it is that it really shows that anybody can do this. Like, you can do this. You can make this work. You can bumble through it, and maybe it will save your life. Maybe it won't. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's going to help you with pain management. The other thing it really helps with too, I realized, is so I'm on a Zoladex, which is a shot that I get every 3 months in my stomach to keep me in menopause, because the particular type of cancer that I was diagnosed with fed off estrogen, and so they keep me in menopause. And I was really worried about how I was going to be in menopause, because there's some women in our family who will not be named who went a little crazy in menopause, and so I was really worried about that, and kind of said to my husband, like, I'm the easygoing one. We can't both be difficult. But the Rick Simpson oil has really helped with that as well. And I know that because I ran out in the summer. There was a 2-week period when I didn't have any, and I cried. By day 3, I was just a ball of tears, and I was snapping at everybody, and just really not kind of what I had worried about happening. So as it gets lower, I usually use something just to kind of keep it on an angle, and sometimes I keep it in the hot water too, but usually it's fine just to go out. See what I mean about good syringes, if you can find them. Let me see if I can. No. So the other option is using, and this is more messy, but you can use just a half teaspoon. Now I should say, if you can get a cup style, that's a lot easier to use than the round. And again, just go down and measure it. Anyway, going back to my story. So I continued to feel better when I was supposed to be getting sicker. I didn't have a lot of side effects from the drugs, which was great. I did stereotatic radiation on my 3 spots, which I think probably helped, but really made me quite sick. And it was a weird sickness. It wasn't at the time, it was several months later, and I actually got some lung damage from it, which I was able to heal as well with the help of the cream and the oils. So all that leads me to last November, when I got my most recent scans. And I found out in January that they can't see any cancer in me anymore. So they can tell where it was, because there's new, bright, beautiful white bone there. So they see no signs of cancer in me. It should have been everywhere through me. Should have been dead. And I'm healthier than I've ever been. So, do they call it remission? No. Do they call it cured? No. So what they can't see on scans are cancer stem cells. So there very well could be cancer stem cells in me. Again, think back to that comparison of sand, like when you get back from the beach, find sand everywhere. That's kind of what cancer stem cells are like. They could be anywhere in me. And so that's why the kind of oncologists are convinced that I'll still die from cancer. I'm not particularly worried about it, partly because I've gotten my head around the whole thing, the whole part of dying, but more than that, they think that because they know the meds that I'm on, the mainstream, do not kill cancer stem cells. They shrink tumors, but don't kill the actual stem cells. But that's okay, because the stuff that all the other stuff I do, a lot of that does have nutrients in it or compounds in them that are known to kill those stem cells. And so just a quick list of the kind of top 10 of ones that they know right now is red grape skin, and you can get the extract from that, just a supplement. Soybeans, broccoli, the turmeric, let's say it, green tea, cinnamon, cardamom, pepper, and ginger are kind of, I guess that's 9, the top 9 ones that they kind of have some research on. So I really think of it now as, think of the cancer now as like a diabetes or heart disease, just something that I have to manage. So I continue to do the Rick Simpson oil. I continue to do daily fasting. So I do usually 18 and 6 now when I first, so that means 18 hours I don't eat. I eat in a 6-hour window. I used to do, in the beginning, 23 and 1. So don't eat for 23 hours, eat for 1. Found that was too hard with all my supplements and pills. So anyway, now I go between 18 and 6 and 22 and 2 hours, somewhere in between there, depending what's going on in my day. And then once a month when I'm off my Ibrance, so I do 3 weeks of Ibrance, off a week. When I'm off my week, I do a 48-hour fast, which sounds really hard, but it really isn't. You just put your mind to it, it'll be fine. So yeah, I just treat it as a health condition that I have to manage and watch. And who knows? Who knows where the research is going to go? And there is more and more research, but when you've got terminal cancer, you don't have time for that research. So I hope this was really helpful. I know it is probably comically amateurish, not my wheelhouse, but that's okay. And again, I just want everyone to know that you can do this. If I can bumble through this, you can bumble through this, and you can probably take it and go beyond my skill set. Really, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And just keep reading out there. Don't take my word for it. Do your own reading, take control, and heal yourself. Thanks. Okay, back on track. Sorry about that. So once you have them filled, you just break off where you're done filling. I usually kind of leave one and use your knife because, again, this stuff is expensive and I kind of make a mess with it, but you really want to save as much of it as you can. So you cut it off, roll it up, put it in the dish back, and then these go in the freezer. And I leave them in the freezer until it's time for them to go in my butt. We call them butt pills in my house. My daughter always says, "Do you remember your butt pill?" So just to show you how they work, here's one ripped off. This is empty, but just to give you the idea. So you pinch the top of it, and then this comes open. There's 2 flaps, and then you just pull, and it comes out. Make sure you wash your hands really well before you insert it. Your hands has skin on it, so that's a really good barrier, but once you push it into your bum, it doesn't have that barrier, and so you just want to make sure that you don't run into any problems there with that. So keep them in the freezer till just before you use them, and actually when you're holding them, when you're carrying them, try not to hold them on the actual suppository because they'll get melty and goopy and harder to use. Hold them on the side like this. It took me a ridiculous long time to clue into that. So make sure you do that. The other thing I will say, again, all this, so much trial and error. It would have been funny. I should have recorded from the beginning if it wasn't so mortifying. For the first, month, 6 weeks that I did it, my butt was so itchy. It almost drove me crazy. So the solution I eventually stumbled upon is simple, but not elegant. You get one of these. I get these at the dollar store. They're just cotton pads. I like the size of them. I get one of these. I either put a dab of either Vaseline or the Rick Simpson cream if you have it. That's what I use, just a little dab of that. You put the suppository in, and then you put this against your bum hole. And that just keeps everything, because there's gonna be some leakage, that keeps all the leakage in this, it keeps it off your skin, and it keeps your butt from itching. Again, if I can save you all that discomfort, I'm happy to. So I just want to make sure I've gone over everything. The other thing is, if you can wear black underwear, if you can, it'll make you feel better about everything. And the uptake is better through the suppositories, but I also do supplement both with the creams topically, so that will go down about 4 inches, or through your belly button. And in the other video I do, I kind of talk about that, but you can, behind the belly button is a whole network of blood vessels that were there from when you were in the womb and when all of your nutrients used to go that way. So it's kind of like a defunct subway, just waiting for someone to turn the lights on, the power on, and get it back going. So when you put it in your belly button, it will absorb in there, and then again gets into your bloodstream. I do still take oral, not the Rick Simpson. I just do a high quality THC oil and CBD oil. I take those orally in the evening, and that, again, that's just as many ways I can give my body to push back. I do. But besides that, don't be hard on yourself. It's trial and error. It will get easier. It will become very second nature, and it can help with besides, maybe it won't heal your cancer, maybe it will, but if it doesn't, it's still worth doing, because it helps with anxiety, it helps with depression for a lot of people, it helps with pain. I have no pain. Well, I very quickly dealt with my pain. Appetite issues, mood stabilizer, like all those areas have really improved with me since I started using it. And again, hopefully someday we can just go to the pharmacy and order highly specialized strains of suppositories to help us. We're just not there right now, and so we got to do the best we can. Thank you.